Hello everybody. So we are going to continue with the second part of the video, that is on organizing. In the earlier one, we had discussed about the process of organizing, about formal and informal organizations, and span of management. In this video, that is part 2, we will focus on the different forms of departmentation. These are the different types of departmentation we can have, either by function or process, or by territory or geography, then by customer and by product. This is an example of departmentation by function. We are talking of a refinery where you will have different verticals that go as per function. So refining is one function, power and utilities, that is the maintenance, is one function, pipelines is one, human resource management is one, finance is one, marketing is one, and then you can have many more functions. So this is an example of departmentation by function. Let us understand the advantages and disadvantages. The advantages of departmentation by function are that it is a logical reflection of functions. It maintains power and prestige of major functions. It follows the principle of specialization. It simplifies training, and it furnishes means of tight control at the top. If you look at any one of these functions, for example, if it is refining, this is a specialty area, and you will have people from specializations which are required for refining. So therefore, when you do departmentation by function, we are having a logical reflection of the functions. And we also said it follows principle of specialization. So therefore, if people are from the same kind of a area, then training is also simplified, and it is easier to maintain control because you have common standards, common yardsticks against which performance will be measured. However, there are disadvantages. It de-emphasizes overall company objectives because we are only focused on our specialization. We tend to forget that what was the overall objective of this refinery. And over specialization will also lead to narrow vision. You are just not able to see beyond your own area of specialization. It may lead to less coordination between the functions. Responsibility for profit is at the top, and it sometimes becomes difficult when you are not able to control these different functional areas. Slow adaptation to environmental changes, and it limits the development of general managers. Because you have put in people as per their specializations, they become specialists and they are less of a general manager. Let's move to departmentation by territory or geography. Any organization that is spread across a country or maybe continents, they will have departmentation by territory. For example, if within our own country, if we have an organization that is a pan-India organization, there will be zone-wise departments. So you have a north zone, south zone, east zone, west zone, central zone. But this is just at one level. When you go to the zones, it will either follow a departmentation by product or departmentation by function. What are the advantages of having departmentation by territory or by geography? It places responsibility at lower level, which means that the manager that you have put in that area, he or she is responsible for the functioning of the entire department out there. There is emphasis on local markets and problems. It improves coordination in a region. You can take advantage of economies of the local operation, better face-to-face with local interest. And anybody who is working in this kind of a organization will have enough training to become a general manager. The disadvantage is that whoever is working here needs to have more of general managerial abilities. And it tends to make maintenance of centralized services difficult because you are focusing on the local operations. All your activities are happening locally. And it increases problem of top management control because the top management has to now keep control over different territories, different zones. Next, we move to departmentation by customer. This is an example of a bank. At the corporate office, these are the different departmentations it has, and they go customer wise. So for NRIs, you have one unit. For those people who are doing international banking, there's another unit. Then for regular customers, there's a personal unit, personal department. Businesses will have their own units. And then there is finally wealth management. Now this departmentation is happening at the corporate office. At the branch office also you will find that there is departmentation by customer. Retail, which is for people like you and me. Corporate, that is for the organizations, your institution and my institution. When they have the accounts in a particular bank branch, then that is a corporate customer. Then they also have to deal with government transactions. And also there is one more section for the pensioners. So this is departmentation by customer. The advantage is that it encourages concentration on customer needs. And customers also feel that they have an understanding supplier. And when you work in this kind of a scenario, you tend to develop customer expertise. The disadvantages could be that there is competing customer demands. I may have a savings account. So in that sense, I am a retail customer, but I am also a pensioner. So therefore, there are conflicting demands, competing demands from my side. It requires managers and staff who are expert in customers' needs, and customer groups may not always be clearly defined. Then we move to departmentation by product. This is an organization which has these verticals, and you can see the range, the variety, starting from aerospace and defense. It goes till home and personal care, chemicals, financial services, real estate, power and energy, you name it, they seem to have it. I'm just giving you a couple of seconds to try and guess which organization is this. It is Godrej. So when you have multiple products, you need to have departmentation by product. The advantage is that the focus is on the product line, and it facilitates use of specialized capital, facilities, skills, and knowledge. It permits growth and diversity of products and services, improves coordination of functional activities. It is because here the departmentation by product comes at the first level, and after that you will have departmentation by function. It places responsibility of profit at the divisional level. That means product wise you can have profit responsibilities. And it provides training ground for general managers. So as a manager, you are taking care of one particular product and everything related to that. The process, the marketing, the profit. So therefore, you are getting trained as a general manager. Disadvantage is that it requires more people with general manager abilities, and it tends to make maintenance of centralized services difficult, because we've understood that you have now divided into, product wise you have formed departments, and these are now all independent. So there is nothing happening in a centralized manner by which you can reduce your cost of operations. And it increases problem of top management control, because this manager has to look after these multiple products divisions. That is why there is problem. Let's understand matrix organization. In a matrix organization, the emphasis is on end results. Specialists are occasionally needed. Specialists prefer professional alignment, and it is possible to pinpoint responsibility. Let me explain with the help of an example. Let us take the example of a construction company. So we are calling it ABC Construction Company, and it is headed by a general manager. You can see that there are different verticals: electrical, civil, HR, interiors, and the architects. So when you look at it like this, it is departmentation by function. But when there is a project which comes up, for example, you have to construct a shopping mall, you will need people from each of these departments, but you don't need all of them at the same time. So in the project, you will need the architect first, then your civil will come in, electrical will come in, interiors come in towards the last. This project is assigned to a project manager. So if you look at the diagram, you can see that people from different levels have been taken up and appointed in the project. And like I said, you don't need all of them at the same point of time. They will go and work in the project when they are required, and after that they will come back to their parent department. And this project that is happening, the organization structure is now referred to as a matrix organization. When the project will get over, the matrix organization also will disband. So therefore we are saying matrix organization emphasize on end results. So the project manager is responsible for completing the shopping mall at whatever time was designated. Specialists are occasionally needed, like I have explained, that you need people but at a particular point of time. The architect is needed at the beginning of the project, while the person from the interiors is required towards the end of the project. These architects, the civil engineers, or the interior decorators, they are all specialists, and they would prefer to have their own professional alignment. Pinpoints responsibility, because you have put a project manager in place, you know that he or she is responsible for the end result. There are certain drawbacks with this type of organization. Number one, there is conflict in organizational authority, and there is disunity of command. Let me explain these two together. If you can see here, each person out here, they are belonging to some particular vertical, and we have assigned them to the project. So now it means that this person has to report to the parent organization also, the parent department, all right, head of that department, and also has to report to the project manager. That is why we are saying there is conflict in organizational authority and there is disunity of command. If you remember Fayol's 14 principles, there was one principle which said that there must be unity of command. But in a matrix organization, it is not possible. And finally, it requires managers to have effective soft skills. The project manager who is heading this project has to manage a whole lot of people who are not really his subordinates in the true sense. So they are coming all from different parent departments, and the project manager may not even know all of them personally, but yet he has to manage them and get the work done. And that is why the project manager requires effective soft skills. There are some problems of matrix organization. Number one, conflict for resources. Your resources will mean manpower, finance, and maybe equipments also. So if we continue with our example of the construction company, I had mentioned only one project, a shopping mall. There will be multiple projects running, and each of these projects will be asking for the same kind of equipments, same manpower, and that is where the conflict happens. Number two, there is going to be role conflict, role ambiguity, and role overload. If you have been assigned to the project, your conflict is that should I listen to my parent department or should I listen to the project manager? Your job description is now ambiguous. You really do not know where you belong and what you are supposed to do. Where does your loyalty lie? And therefore, there is going to be work overload also. Imbalance of authority. You have to report to your departmental boss. You also have to report to a project manager. So therefore, there is imbalance of authority. It increases administrative costs because when we are forming this team, this matrix organization, it is like setting up another independent unit. It will require its own office space, its own functioning, and therefore it increases administrative cost. And in a matrix organization, you need to have many meetings so that each one of us, we are on the same page. We understand it exactly the way it has to be implemented. And these meetings are very time consuming. But yet matrix is required. So let us understand how to make it effective. First is that we have to define the objectives for which this team has been set up and clarify the roles. Influence of people in the team should be based on knowledge and information. Power has to be balanced. The project manager that we pick up, it is not necessary that he has to be someone from the topmost level in the hierarchy. Maybe the topmost person in the hierarchy is not really suitable to be a project manager. And yet we understand that if you take up somebody from a lower level and put him as a project manager, the senior people will not listen to him. So therefore, we have to be very careful while balancing power. We must select experienced project managers, and before they get to work on the project, it is important to undertake team development. We want the team to gel very well so that they can complete the project in a coordinated manner. And finally, when the job has been done, we need to reward project managers and the team members. Let's move to another form, that is the strategic business unit. An SBU is defined as one that has its own mission, has definable group of competitors, prepares its own integrative plans, manages its own resources, and has a proper size. So if you look into all these things, we understand that a strategic business unit is an almost independent unit, except that it is a part of a larger organization. So let's have a look at some of the strategic business units. This is from Bharat Petroleum Corporation. So it has its strategic business units as the refinery, the retail, the LPG, the lubricant, aviation, industrial and commercial. It is not necessary that every refinery in India is going to have SBUs. But Bharat Petroleum has SBUs. Let's look some more SBUs of the Tata Group. So you have Tata Steel, Tata Motors, Tata Consultancy, Tata Technologies, Tata Tea, Tata Power, Tata Communications, Tata Teleservices, Tata Hotels. And if you thought that this was the end of the SBUs, here is a surprise. This same Tata Consultancy Services, which we have just referred to as an SBU, is now planning to set up another SBU-like unit. And it is going to set up this strategic unit to expand presence in emerging markets. And I am sure in due course of time, when this strategic unit becomes large enough, it will be converted into a strategic business unit. So let me just go back to the previous slide. Now you can understand better when we have, when we define this strategic business unit. The advantages of having this SBU is that it promotes entrepreneurship and the product is not lost. So let's understand this with the help of this Tata Consultancy. When you are setting up a strategic unit to specially focus on emerging markets, it means that this is a new venture which you are taking up, all right, and it is a little entrepreneurial in nature. So therefore, you are trying to promote entrepreneurship. You are taking moderate risk and trying to see if it is possible to make, to get a foothold in the emerging markets. And you are creating a separate unit so that this business does not get lost among the existing Tata Consultancy Services businesses. So this is a new idea you have come up with. It's your baby, it has to be nurtured, and there's separate focus which has to go out there, and that is why the strategic unit was created. So with this, we come to the end of part 2, and part 3 of organizing will continue in the next video. Thank you very much.